Hello, and welcome back to the definitive Starship Review series without access to a proper tale, where today we will be looking at the USS Jubayr from Star Trek Discovery. Now, I'm about to say something quite controversial. Many of you might faint, you might get angry, but it's just true, and you've got to learn to accept this. I adore the 32nd century aesthetic for Starship design. I absolutely loved it. It went from something that, when I knew what the third season was going to be, I thought would genuinely be impossible to do and would just be a failure. The people at the end of Voyager were struggling to push Federation design forward, let alone 1,000 years. And it became my favorite era of Starship design, in large part because of the execution. I adore the era. I know it's controversial. I know there are a lot of people who downright hate everything about it. I know there are a lot of people who don't hate everything about it, but they hate most of it, and mostly they hate those detached nacelles that I adore. But I am one of the few who absolutely adores it. There are like 2, maybe 3, if you count Discovery designs, that I'm like, I'm not a big fan of this one. And even then, that's not necessarily don't work. It's just I'm not a big fan of that one. And part of the reason I love it is it managed to create, first of all, a cohesive fleet. They all feel like they go together, whether you like them or not. I think we can probably all agree, Discovery aside, which, is 23rd century, the Federation fleet goes together. But they managed to take the designs we know, the Excelsior, the Constitution, these sorts of things, the Defiant even, and push them 1,000 years forward with kind of their own technology, their spin. But they also created, first off, not just things that conceptually are so weird to us, which you should be 1,000 years in the future, like the rainforest in space, that clearly has a purpose and intention, we just can't fathom what it is. They also appeared to create new lineages that would have cropped up in the 1,000 years. And among those new lineages, and even design philosophies, are the Jubayr, which I'm probably going to be comparing a lot to the Nog, which is now dwarfed in size. But these two appear to be part of their own philosophy of Starship design, of this almost Wall-E-esque kind of curves, these jutting out, which might be technological. This could be sort of like your Ambassador and Galaxy class kind of analogy. We don't really know a lot of the history for these new ships because we've skipped like 700-800 years without seeing anything. But it just feels so much like there is a cohesive 1,000 years that we just haven't seen. And so I adore these starships. Let's not poke the happy couple. I don't know. I think that's the manager and the tailor who live in this jazz shop. Jazz shop? No, you don't buy jazz. It's a jazz club. It's a jazz club. Anyway, yes, I think these ships, especially the Jubayr, hold up in their own right. But now, I also have to address the second controversial, although much less controversial than claiming this is my favorite era of Starship design, statement that the Jubayr is actually kind of special in that it is 2 ships in one, and is either an absolutely fantastic, I adore Starship design. This is unfortunately the last 32nd century ship Eaglemoss ever produced. It's one of the unreleased ones. There were some, but they never made it into mass production like the Constitution class. But, as much as it's a shame I won't get a lot of the others, this is probably the one I wanted the most of what we hadn't got already. And, I love this design. It's a fantastic design. The second design you get from it is a goddamn abomination that should never see the light of day, which is what I'm showing you here. Now, similar to the Sona Starship, in which I have gone the complete opposite route in which one I do, the Jubayr was actually designed to fly like this, which I will admit it has grown on me a little more as I've seen it fly like this more, but the designer and, the VFX, sometimes there's miscommunication. And in the show, it flies like this, with this as the front. Before it was designed so it flew like this, but in the show, it flies like this. And I think they might have one in the 4th season that does that. I don't remember. Actually, yeah, that's even worse. I think there is one that flies like this, which now has the weird canonical implementation that it flies both ways. And yeah, this does grow on me, but I mean, it's just so bland. All your beautiful detail is hiding back here. This is kind of the problem the Excelsior has. Oh god, I should have got that one out. Where the secondary hull is just kind of flat, boring nothing, that the Enterprise B fixed a bit. That's kind of always a problem with the Excelsior class, and on this, you're putting it on full display if you fly like this. But here, it works a lot better, because all this is hidden by this backdrop. I mean, you're hiding this beautiful thing. There's some stuff in there, but you just get so much more of the detail of the ship. So I've been displaying it like this, but annoyingly enough, on camera, this actually shows off a lot more of the model. But you might give me a 180 literally over the course of this video. Look at these registries. I don't know. I feel like it should fly that way. But yeah, the Jubayr, a massive ship, of course. Another thing I love about the 32nd century. Star Trek never really had big ships as far as sci-fi is concerned. There are some, the Whale Probe, Voyager, but even like a Borg Cube, which is kind of Star Trek's big ships, like the proper Borg cubes, not the Voyager ones, the proper TNG Borg cubes. When you look on like big sci-fi scales of huge ships, they're tiny. They're like among the smallest ones. The Death Star is like a moon. Imperial Star Destroyers are ginormous. Like, Star Trek was always a small ship, but small scale sci-fi. And I love that, the 1,000 years later, when we push into the 32nd century, they make it big, not to like the ludicrous levels of other sci-fis, like, a Voth City ship is normal, like, I think that is it, that like in Star Wars, the Star Destroyers are like the equivalent of Voth City ships. You have these big like luxury cruise liners. They're like the Enterprise D of the Enterprise D, but it's not insane like the Enterprise J or stuff. I really love just kind of the scales we work at and these huge spaces and their art forms. Just look at this ship. It's sculpted. You get the feel that, all these ships are going to kind of be designed pre-burn. The Federation wasn't really making ships during the burn. So they're reflective of an era right before the burn, where basically everybody is in the Federation. You got the Romulans, you got the Klingons, the Cardassians, the Ferengi. Like, we don't have an enemy that's not in the Federation. The Borg aren't around. The Dominion have to go through the choke point in the wormhole, and you get these just sculpted works of art. Like, if the Enterprise D was the luxury cruise liner in space, again, that sort of decadence of a century of peace and prosperity, then this is just that, but it's a century for the entire galaxy. I adore these models. I also do have to acknowledge at some point now that, yeah, it's also like a gun. It it holds pretty well as a gun, but it doesn't... It could be a gun, but like it's too sculpted and beautiful to be a gun. I don't know. But yeah, normally what I do at this point in the video is I kind of go by sections: bridge, primary hull, secondary hull, turbos. Yeah, this kind of breaks the structure of our videos. So let's just maybe go top down. You've got what would have been designed as presumably the back. Like, where's the bridge? There, I guess? Is there a bump up here? I don't know. I just love the white, the Aztecing on these ships, and the pinstriping, which really, especially with the white they've gone for, it's very TMP, helps bring these ships, which are totally new. I mean, if this flew up next to the Enterprise D, you'd be like, what the hell is that? It's alien. But even the little details of the pinstriping on this kind of white and Aztecing really makes it go like, oh yeah, that's Federation. That's just future Federation. But yeah, you've got this lovely shade of yellow among just the black detailing, which I think looks really nice to do. these windowing across a lot of the ship. I mean, you got it in there. You've got back here again a lot just Jubayr registries and all that stuff. You can see on this Eaglemoss, classic Eaglemoss, the paint job is actually, wow, like kind of missed the mark. It didn't even miss the mark necessarily. It looks too big, this black bit. Like, I don't know if it was supposed to go down there or what. The scale of the ship helps hide that. And again, just maybe don't display that as your front. I don't know. It's the sculpted nature. I get vibes. I don't know how many people are going to really get this of La Sagrada Familia. Heck, I have pictures I'll probably put up here on the side. Which is a cathedral in Spain they've been building for like a century or so. And the inside's very organic. Oh my God, who did it? Gaudi? Was that the Barcelona guy or was that the Rome guy? I think it's Gaudi. I'll put it on screen if it's not. But you get these very organic and white curves and stuff. And that's what it really reminds me of, is that you'll see it a lot if you ever go to Barcelona, but the cathedral especially, it's just so unique. There's not really anything like this. It's very fluid, vaguely programmable matter, just like the source stuff. You can do this in the 32nd century for just your starships, and I think it's just so much good world building to get that kind of peace and prosperity. Okay, yes, I know the temporal Cold Wars existed, but also they didn't. That's a whole nother video, is how, like, in Enterprise, the timeline that Daniels and the Cold War are from very clearly never happened because of the events of Enterprise. But, we're getting way sidetracked if we start talking about that sort of stuff. This is a very peace and prosperity kind of thing. And just so many curves, little, I don't know, bumps, sensors, like, just... even as a model, is a display piece. Forget the starships. Like, this is impressive that Eaglemoss built this. It's fairly sturdy. I mean, I could start snapping these if I wanted, I'm sure. It's within my strength. It's mostly plastic, but this is impressive that you made this in the real world, like as a model, as a starship. You've got your little carnival fun time slides down here. And so much of this, when I put, like, here we go, look at this. This is just like a big mega cathedral on an alien world. Like, it's so sculpted and beautiful and crafted. It's a work of art and is one of my favorite ships of that era. I mean, it dwarfs the Nog. Like, again, it's huge. Like, for Eaglemoss, it kind of has to be, just with the proportions, but you could have scaled this down, made it like the Nog, but they just fully embraced it. Like, I can't even frame the thing. The Nog is big because it's got this big tail, but this is just, oh my God. Where the Nog is big because it's long, but generally not particularly tall, the Jubayr, which I've just realized, I hope I'm saying that. I don't actually even know what language that is. And of course, the United Federation of Planets. It's very tall, and it's also quite long. I mean, the Nog is technically longer, yes, but that's still, when you get two directions like that are very pronounced, usually it's just one. The Excelsior is small but long. Same with the E. Some of those space stations they've released are tall, but not particularly wide. You can get some huge models, and I love that Eaglemoss embrace this. And I know some fans complain, like, well, how does it work? There's no nacelles that, you need to go to warp. There's no visual impulse, but I like that. I like that we didn't abandon nacelles. Like, look at the Nog, it has nacelles. I adore the attached nacelle. I know a lot of people hate them. I adore the detached nacelles. I like that things can connect. And some people complain like, oh, what if your power goes out? All these things fly away. It's like, well, yeah. You know what that means is that we're so advanced now, we're so confident the power isn't going to go out that we can have these. And, like, they can attach. I don't know about something like the Nog, but most of the ships we see they can attach. And that's what they do when they're at warp. It's only out of warp they detach, because then in combat you have so much more maneuverability. If these lag behind, if this nacelle blows up in combat, that sucks. But your ship hasn't blown up, you can deal with that. If you win the battle, you can send another ship to come and repair it. But I also like we have the things like the Nog. It's like, you don't understand how it goes because it doesn't have visual propulsion or anything. Well, yeah, we're like 800 years in advance of anything else we've seen. If you went 800 years ago, like, what even was that, the Middle Ages or something, and you showed someone a car, they'd be like, well, how the hell does it work? It doesn't have any visual way of moving it forward. Its wheels just turn. Like, there's no horse or legs or moving parts that make the car go. You wouldn't understand how the car goes because it's well in advance of anything you know. I think we should have these ships like this that you just don't really know. And I mean, like, it's not impossible. It doesn't break any rules. I mean, the Defiant had nacelles that were attached. Visible, sure. But who's saying this isn't a nacelle? Who's saying this isn't some totally new structure, like type of nacelle that we just hadn't invented yet and some people use now, like in the 32nd century. I adore the 32nd century. I adore the Jubayr. It's one of my favorite models of that era. And I'm very happy we got it. It's upsetting we won't get a rainforest in space. I really wanted the Constitution class. I was kind of withholding judgment of how I felt about that one until I got the model. And I've seen models. If I can find them, I can put them on picture. They made prototypes. They were about to go in production, but we'll never get that one. That Excelsior ship, God, I'm so disappointed we never get the Excelsior ship. If someone else ever picks up and produces Eaglemoss ships like that can fit within this range, I mean, honestly, maybe even if they don't, if they're even vaguely similar, I might have to go and pick up the rest of the 32nd century because I can't give enough praise to this. I've also just noticed that our little guitar player who's reenacting that bit from Hellbent with Capaldi and Clara has had a massive accident. Come on, Lego, release a modular hospital. We don't have anything. But yeah, I think I've probably gone off enough about this, and there's gonna be comments of people who, knowing my fan base, are like, you're absolutely wrong about the 32nd century, but okay, which is fair enough. I adore this. I've also just realized my ring's kind of reminiscent of some of these things, and there aren't there. Just the gaps and the curves, which is kind of accidental. Well, I mean, it's totally accidental. You know why I have this ring is specifically kind of looks like a sun to match my wife's moon, and I could put a ruby, a sapphire, and a garnet in it. And if those three combination of gemstones made you perk up a bit, you're right, and you're my favorite fan. So yeah, let's wrap things up then with the Jubayr and the Nog. I mean, I love it. I love this new kind of philosophy of Starship and this type of Starship we have. Never talk to me and my son again. I will go ahead and wrap things up as the pizza delivery guy crashes into the Daily Bugle. But thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.